everyone, welcome to the new video. So today we are into day 6 of Terraform tutorial series where we'll see about provisioners in Terraform. So without further ado, let's go. So in day 5 we saw about data sources and dependencies in which we saw that how if something is not created, some resources of cloud which is not created by Terraform, how we'll use the data of those resources if we want to create something using the resources data which is not created by Terraform. So how we will use it using data. Then about dependencies, that how we have to define the dependency of resources if something has to be created after any resource. So how we'll define that depends on how there is implicit and explicit dependencies defined. Now in day 6, we'll understand about Terraform provisioners. So this is also a very important topic because sometime in interview this question can be asked that uh, so basic goal is there are three kinds of provisioners: local exec, remote exec, and file provisioner. So why, when to use provisioner and when not to use provisioner, and what actually provisioners do. So basically, it helps in automating the post deployment task within Terraform. That's why provisioners are used, and this question can be asked in your interview. So after understanding the provisioners, you'll get the point that how interviewers can ask the question from this topic. First of all, we'll understand, the provisioners, that provisioners, and so provisioners are of three type: um, local exec, remote exec, and file provisioners. So, what is provisioner basically? Once we have created, suppose we have created any VM. Understand the scenario. VM is created, virtual machine, and we created it through Terraform. After creating a virtual machine, we want to install immediately something on that virtual machine, like any service. Like we want to install um, filebeat. Filebeat is a service to you know uh, monitor the matrices, basically how the virtual machine is performing, so that you can basically monitor and get out the matrices of CPU, memory, and of a VM. So just after creating the virtual machine, you want that whatever virtual machine your Terraform script is creating, you want to install filebeat in it. Any service or any file you want to copy, that after creating the virtual machine, you want to copy any file on the VM you have created, or any task you want to perform, you want to get any output from the VM that has been created. So to perform all the post deployment tasks, deployment means basically all the tasks which are performed after creating anything or after deploying anything. So basically here the deployment task is creating a VM. So after that we want to perform certain tasks. So all these tasks can be performed by provisioners. But here is a point to be noted, that this task or this provisioner should only be used if the task is not you cannot perform it using Terraform. If you are able to perform that task using Terraform, or there is something which is not, which something you cannot create using Terraform, or that service you can't do, you can't create or you cannot install anything on Terraform, then only you need to use this provisioners. Because there is one way in EC2 instance, when we so VM is something virtual machine that we refer in as But in AWS, we refer the virtual machine as EC2, Cloud Compute. That is why there are Elastic Cloud Compute, Elastic uh, Cloud Compute. So there are two C. That is why EC2. So in EC2, we have if we want to, after creating um, the instance or a server or a virtual machine, we can run anything after the using user data. There is a this is also present in UI. This user data, you can provide the script that you want to run after creating the EC2 instance, and even in creating the Terraform, you can provide the user data. So it will get uh, it will install or execute the script on that VM after creating it. So this is also one way. But if something which you cannot perform using this, or you are seeing any complexity performing it, then you can use provisioners in that case, because these tasks can be performed by Ansible tool, by this user data tool, by but if some, so try to avoid it unless and until it cannot be performed by anything, then we should use it, especially in production environment, because we don't know that maybe it's not working or it may corrupt anything, so that's why we should avoid it. So what is local exec? Local exec is something, first of all, local means local machine on which Terraform script is executed, or what you say, from which. So suppose my system is there and I have my Terraform script in GitHub repo and I am running the script. So my machine or my system is local on which my Terraform script is executing. So when to use local exec? When we want to, suppose I created something, a VM, and I want the output of that VM or some public IP or something from the VM to be there in my system. That after the VM is created, I want certain output, or I want matrices of that VM copied in my um, um, local machine in a TXT notepad, in a notepad file or TXT file. I want those matrices. In that case, this is called local exec, means we want to perform something locally on our machine from the machine that we have created. And then we will use local exec. Remote exec is mean that whatever VM or server or EC2 instance, VM server or instance, or EC2, whatever we are creating, on that, if we want to perform some task, some script, that is called remote, because we are performing on remote server. File provisioner is something when we want to copy any file from our copy file from local to remote. So when we copy file from local machine to remote machine, then we use file provisioner. Basically for files it is. So this is what we understand by provisioners. Now we'll see the examples of it. So I have, first of all, we'll start with local exec. So it's simple. We are going to create the resource, AWS instance, and the name will be web. AMI, we have to give the Amazon machine image, ID, then instance type. And after that, we are going to use provisioner. So inside this only, the loop will not be closed, the braces will not be closed. Inside that only we will write provisioner. And what kind of provisioner? This is local exec, and then the command that we are going to execute. So we are saying echo instance IP self. So self means referring to the VM, which is the self, because we are executing some command on remote server, and then we are getting the output to the local. That's why it is referring to that VM using self.public IP to this txt. So this is how we will use local exec. The command we have to give and we have to refer it using local exec. Then we have remote exec. Remote exec is something when we want to execute something on the server we have created. So in that we have to give the remote exec provisional and inline. Inline means that these commands will be executed. So we have to use inline for sure. And inside the inline command, we are giving, this format we should remember that we need to, first of all, in JSON, and then in the square brackets, we need to give whatever command. So sudo update -y and sudo update install -nj, sudo systemctl start nginx. After this, we have mentioned that these all commands should be executed once the VM is created. This service, nginx service, should be up and running on that server. Now, how our local machine will be connecting to that server, connecting to this VM which is created. So we have to give the connection also. So after this, we need to mention connection. In connection, we have to give type, like it is SSH, or how it will be connecting. User will be Ubuntu. Private key, because key is required to connect to that server, and host. Host will be self.public because it will be referred, because we don't know till the time we don't know that what is the public IP. So that we have to refer over here. Now you'll be wondering, this is also if we have any file where anything is restored and we want to read the file, we need to refer it like this. File, we need to give file. So in this way, it will understand that this is a file, and from this file should be present in our local machine, and from this path which is given, it will read the key. So if you have to give the file as in a input or a value, we need to refer it like this: file and then the name of the file and the path where it is there. So this is how it will understand. Okay, we will have to establish the remote connection like this. So yeah, while providing the provision of remote access, we have to give the connection to. After this, the file provisioner. Here also the same thing, that we have to give provisioner as file, and source will be our remote, our local machine path, and destination will be the remote machine path where we want to copy. And then again the same thing, type, then user, then private key, and then the host, and this connection. So it will again establish a connection and copy the file. So this is what we meant by all the three provisioners and when to use provisioner. So this is a quick warning. Then provisioner are not the Terraform way of configuration management. Terraform is declarative, while provisioner are more procedural. Okay. So use them only when you can't achieve something with Terraform resources or configuration management tools like Ansible. So Terraform is not for these procedural or some installation or software management tool. It's a configuration management tool. So that's why it should be avoided unless and until it cannot be performed by any other tool. So avoid provisioner when you can use native Terraform resources. You have a configuration management tool. You need long-term repeatable configuration logic. Then we cannot use the provisioners. And in production, provisioner should be a last resort, not your default choice. And when to use provisioner, you need a one-time setup right after provisioning. You need to integrate with a system that Terraform doesn't support natively, and you are running small bootstrap script. Then you can use provisioner. So I'll give the link of this repo in the description box. So yeah. That's all for today's video. I hope it's helpful. Please let me know your views in the comment section. Till then, take care. Bye.